The following program is brought to you in living color on NBC.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome, friends. Welcome, friends of friends, and so on. We're so glad that you've joined us tonight. So happy we are together, in quotes. Make sure you have your wine filled and you have appetizers and the ritual foods ready. Tonight, in a little bit, we're going to amble. So whatever we do that before that is obviously the preamble.
Oh,
yuck, yuck, yuck.
Oh, yeah.
I told you that if you have lots of wine, that'll make the jokes a lot better. The Seder that we originally planned for this year had lots of singing. I'm sure it's one that you would have enjoyed a lot, but we can't sing together, so that's on hold. So much of what we've all wanted to do has been on hold. We're not doing any magic tonight, done that. We're not burning bushes in the fireplace, we've done that. We're not decorating the house like an Egyptian tomb, we've done that. And we don't even have any funny songs. Well, one. Well, two. Well, we'll see. But I'm pleased with the topic that we came up for tonight. I'm sure that you're going to enjoy it and learn a lot. If not, you get your money back. At least you get some chicken soup. You did bring the chicken soup, didn't you? Don't open your Haggadahs yet. So welcome to our second annual, second virtual, second night Seder. We're honoring a sacred tradition that goes back 354 suns.
Sons?
So, well, it's a sacred tradition. We're holding Seders over Zoom, and that's how long it was since we had a last Seder. No, the tradition we're honoring goes back thousands of years. All right, since we can't travel, what's the furthest place that we can think of going? What's the farthest place that Jews have gone?
I don't know. The moon?
You're on.
Okay. To the moon, Alice. Wasn't she Jewish? Tonight we're going back in time and across space to what the British Museum site calls one of the farthest flung and most remarkable religious communities of history. We're going to visit with the Jews that built a community in the middle of China. Very isolated, small, proud, prosperous, lasting longer than many European communities. The subject of Chinese Jews is one of those that is peculiar enough for us to do a double take.
And so we have the reveal. We had another way of doing this and it didn't work, so this will take a little while longer. So entertain yourselves with a good joke.
Turn the light on.
Now, there have been many scholarly books that have been written on this topic, and the talk about the stories of these people that were living in China. And I'm probably sure that most of you don't know a whole lot about these people, about the Jews that lived there, and we certainly didn't. So let's dive in. Now, open your Haggadahs. I want to give credit to people who helped us.
So the people who helped us, and believe me, we could not have done this on our own, Rabbi Cliff and Debbie Miller, Dr. Jordan Finken from the Rare Book and Manuscript Librarian at Hebrew Union College, Evan Chu, some of you will recognize his name, his voice, Zuki Gottlieb, Phil Kruger for his magnificently expansive book collection.
Which I just showed some of you, right? Of it.
Ricky Stein and Paul Tong. And as a matter of fact...
later, we're going to talk about them later.
No. As a matter of fact, this was the perfect year to do a Chinese Seder because, frankly, I've been wanting to do one for a while, but I really didn't want to cook the Chinese food. So I'm off the hook for that. You're all on your own.
You're all on your own. You got to do the Chinese food.
Not like I did for the Southwestern Seder with the chicken mole and all that.
Okay, so this This here is not the Haggadah that the Chinese Jews used. This was published in 2009. This is a representation of the Haggadah that the Jews of China did use. This is the actual size. Written in 1600, in the 1600s. Now they celebrated at least 1,450 Seders, maybe as many as 1,800, from perhaps the year 960 through at least 1850.
We'll find out more about them, where they came from, their stories and history. But let's first have Kiddush to get on our way.
A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a glass of wine. Well, 7,183 miles from here, but who's counting? Is your wine glass full?
卡带须
So the Kadeshi. Tell you more about that in a second. With this Kiddush, we give thanks. You should be thankful that we're not following all the traditions of the Chinese Jews. The Kiddush in their Haggadah is extremely long. One scholar called it a cantor's dream. Altogether, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Don't drink it yet. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'am, v'ramanu v'kol asal shahom, v'kiddashanu b'mitzvotav, v'titein lanu Adonai Eloheinu b'ahava, modin l'simcha ha'chagim uzmanim l'sison, et yom chag ha'matzot, matzah, that's matzah. Matzot hazeh, zman chirotenu, mikra kodesh, zecher litziat mitzrayim, kivanu b'acharta, v'otanu kedashta, mikol ha'amim, u'moadei katshecha b'simcha b'sason hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh Yisrael v'hazmanim. You can say Amen if you want to. Amen, thank you. All together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu, v'kiyamanu, v'higianu, lazman hazeh. And now in English, read from your... Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has granted us life and sustenance and permitted us to reach this season. Now drink, leaning to the left. But we will follow some of the traditions of the Kaifeng Jews. They had a bracha, a blessing, before washing the hands both times. Subsequently, I learned from scholar Joshua Culp that a lot of medieval Haggadahs had a blessing before the first washing. This was not unusual. It's just that we haven't done it for hundreds of years. So we're now going to wash the hands.
卡带须洗手
That's washing of the hands in Chinese. So I want to explain what we're doing here. It is often traditional for each of the steps of the Seder, not everything that we do, but all the steps of the Seder, what you do is you call out successively, one then another. So you go Kadesh, and then Kadesh Orchatz, and then Kadesh Orchatz Karpas, and then Kadesh Orchatz Karpas, and so forth. And that's how you announce the steps of the Seder. The Seder means order. And I'm very delighted that we have several people who are not Jewish. One of the things I intended to say, I forgot to say it, is that if ever you go to another Seder, you won't recognize very much. This is one of the things that Mark Niger once said. We had Sandy Zhong one year. She had helped us with a 4 questions translation. She wanted to see what a Seder was like. And he said, you know, if you ever go to a regular Seder, you're not going to say, where's the burning bush in the fireplace, and so forth and so on. So we now wash our hands, as did the Kaifeng, in a stone bowl. So,
You got it? Are you okay? Can you lift that? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Watch the wine glass. Oh my gosh.
okay.
Oh.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, al netilat yadayim there. Okay, it's on all sides.
Yes, splash.
More about this later. Good thing we don't have a dog. Okay, all right. So you were supposed to say in English, Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with your commandments and commanded us concerning the washing of the hands. The Haggadah of the Kaifeng Jews did not have both karpas and yachatz, the next two things we're going to do. If we were following their Haggadah, we'd skip this. Actually, so many essential things are omitted. No blessing over the matzah, some of the cups of wine, God forbid that would happen. These omissions and more, as one scholar, Chaim Simons, put it to me, strictly following the Haggadah would not fully perform the mitzvot of the Seder. They did not have a printing press, so the Haggadahs had to be repeatedly copied. And Simons used several arguments in his book to conclude that most of these are copyist errors. So we're now going to do karpas. Surprise, wait, there we go. We're going to use chopsticks. So get your chopsticks. And while you go get your chopsticks, we're going to play a little game, the first of a couple tonight. So here you go. So we're going to play a fun wordlets game. So these are images that refer to things in the Seder. So what be this? Put it in chat. Yes, what are they? What are they? What are they? What is this? Questions, what is this? Salt water, not quite salt water, there's more there. Split the Red Sea, very good. What's this? Matzah in a circle around matzo. No, no, no. Matzah ball. Yes, Larissa. Okay, what's this? Break the middle matzah. Very good. What is this? I hope you're all getting your chopsticks. Come on, you got to be quick. Now turns to blood. Very good. What's this? Burning bush. Very good. What's this? This one's a little harder. The horse is rider. Moses in a basket. Very good. 4 sons. Very good. What's this? 10 Commandments. Yes, yes, yes. And here are the answers. Thank you very much to Barry Kling, my friend up in Boston, who does a lot of wonderful stuff at his Seders also. Chopsticks ready. So get some parsley, get some green, and we're going to put it in the salt water. Go ahead. You take yours. All right. And then the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Borei pariha adamah. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, creator of the fruits of the earth. All right. The Mishnah implies that we should not wait after saying we should not wait for the appetizers. So now that we've said the blessing, eat. I hope you have lots of stuff to keep you going for the next 4 hours. No, it's not going to be 4 hours, but it takes a long time to chew parsley. So anyway, so I don't want you to be hungry. That should not be one of the plagues. So now we're going to break the middle matzah.
卡带须洗手卡帕斯，把马扎饼从中分成2半。
I hope you heard the
matzah. That for middle matzah?
Break the middle matzah. You heard the matzah. So we're going to put this away. And that'll be the hidden piece that you have to find later on. You'll see how we do that.
Ha
lachama. Tonight, excuse me.
Sure.
Tonight we are talking about the Jews of China. This is the China of Jews.
That's so bad.
It is so bad. Okay, there you go. I told you, drink lots of wine. Makes the jokes much better. This is the bread of affliction that our fathers ate in the land of Egypt. Let all who are on the Silk Road who are hungry come and eat. Let all who are needy in Henan province come and celebrate Passover. At present we are here, well, you mean over there, wherever you are, isolated from all other Jews, even those in other Chinese cities. Next year we may be in Israel. At present we are slaves. Next year may we be free. The Kaifeng were a viable community 40 years after their final rabbi died. at least through 1850. In that year, the last of the knowledgeable survivors wrote a letter describing how on the 14th day of the second moon they celebrated the Feast of Dry Wheat, unleavened bread, cakes called oil fragrance, yi xiang, are distributed to friends. Read the footnotes. We know from this letter that even 40 years after their last rabbi died and a decade after their synagogue was demolished, the community was still honoring their traditions, celebrating holidays, and even praying each week.
So now it's time to do something strange. We'll pour a second cup of wine.
You too.
This is supposed to elicit a question from all those watching carefully to ask, why is this night different?
Maybe at this Seder we'll do only one strange thing. Wouldn't that be unusual? Okay, so the second cup of wine is poured, and the youngest on Zoom asks the 4 questions. Here's, first of all,
妈，你是他那？
okie dokie. Let's see, do we have anybody who hasn't been bar or bat mitzvahed? Anybody out there? If you can unmute, go ahead. And what I'd like to ask you to do, I'm going to introduce Lucy. Just do the first 3 lines and then pause, because then I'll say something. Yes. So one of the things, so we're going to continue with Lucy. So bravo, bravo. We're going to continue with Lucy, but I want to make sure everybody stays muted except for the Hirsch family. All of you who are the youngest in your family, wherever that family happens to be, not necessarily in your own house, follow along, sing along, and that way we have a connection between all the generations and all of the different people on the Zoom call. So go ahead, Lucy, take it away. Bravo, bravo.
Yay.
So happy, so
Perfect.
happy. Okay, so we always highlight one of our newest editions. And so last year, between the Seder last year and this, we ended up contacting someone who lives in Australia. So we ended up getting an Aboriginal language, and you can see in your Haggadah what the name of the language is. And her name is Margaret Sharp. She'll tell you how old she is. She's working, she has a PhD in linguistics when she studied some of the Aboriginal languages when she was younger, and she's now getting a PhD in astrophysics.
Margaret Sharp, aged 85. Yugambeh, or what I'm sometimes calling Mibinya, is the language that belongs to the Bunjalung dialects that use the word Mibin for Aboriginal man. The whole language has a difference between things you can see and things you can't see.
So I hope you caught how old she is. She's 85 years old. She's 86 now, and she's getting a PhD in astrophysics. So she's
Not too shabby.
she's not too shabby indeed. Relating to tonight's theme, This is a Chinese page out of our book. There's more than 1 billion people that speak Mandarin. And I have to tell you, we interrupt this program with a word from our sponsor. So even public radio and public television has commercials. So I wanted you to give you an opportunity to see a little bit more about this. So this is 300 ways to ask the 4 questions. Those of you who don't know, this was a 40-year project. It involved 850 people. What we did is we ordered the book like a timeline. The beginning of it starts ancient languages. So you've got Ugaritic, we've got Sumerian, we've got Phoenician, we have Moabite, late Egyptian, and Akkadian, and many other interesting ancient languages. These are all done by world experts. Now for living languages, we've got Zulu, which is a click language. We've got Yiddish done by Theodore Bickel. We've got Xhosa, which is a click language, which was Nelson Mandela's native language. And we have Tlingit, which is a Native American language from Alaska. And we've got Tamil. Our Tamil speaker is 7 years old. She's also native speaker of Yiddish. And at the other end of the book, we've got Basque, which has no connection to any other European language, and Azerbaijani, and Armenian, and Arabic, and Apache, another Native American language, and Abkhaz. But you might be saying, wait a second, don't you have any Jewish languages? Well, we've got every single one. So those of you thinking of your heritage and where you came from, I am certain we've got the language, several of them, that connect you to your heritage. Now, at the back of the book, we've got goofy ones. These are everybody's favorites. We've got Klingon by the world's most accomplished speaker. We've got Pig Latin and Hebrew and English. Ricky's favorite is the semaphore that was used by the Israeli Navy. We've got a phenomenal Shakespearean sonnet. And we've got Lawyerese. It's a whole page. It's just the first question. And we've got a Jamaican reggae and Valley Girl, everybody's favorite as well. Probably between the Klingon and the Valley Girl, that sold more of our books than anything else. Other times you would go there, and I appreciate Barry for putting the link in there.
And do not buy it on Amazon.
Don't buy it on Amazon.
Do not buy it on Amazon.
So here's the book. You can have it at your Seder table in a week if you want to. So this relates to tonight's theme. Okay.
在其他的夜晚，我們吃發酵的麵包或無酵餅。
今晚只吃無酵餅。
在其他的夜晚，我们吃各种各样的香料。
今晚我跟来那些苦味草。
在其他的夜晚，我们什么都不沾，今晚我们沾2次。
今仔下暗，咱打食烤的食饭。
在其他夜到，我们用普通的方式吃饭。
今晚我们以科学的意识进餐。
夜晚不同。This is Nim Chang speaking Cantonese.
Lucy Mann speaking Hakka. Dong Chui speaking Mandarin.
This is Ping speaking Fuzhou dialogue.
This is Wenlei Jiang speaking Sichuan Chongqing dialect.
This is Fu Chunlin speaking Taiwanese.
This is Yi Beilin. I speak Chinese.
Okay, now we've got some 4 questions for tonight's theme. Why is our Jewish community so different from all others?
All other communities pray in houses of worship, but only ours displays huge stone inscriptions depicting our history.
Mostly, other communities live in fear of anti-Semitism, but ours never faced discrimination. We even had leaders follow our traditions and holidays.
All other communities show a wondrous variety of family names, but only ours are so tight-knit into 8, now 7, clan names.
And since we're asking questions, how the heck did we get here? Now, put in chat if you can think of other questions, 4 questions for this particular year, what you're experiencing, or for this Seder. I'd love to see them. We'll see them later on.
卡带须洗手卡帕斯，把马扎饼从中分成2半。马基的。
So we're now going to do the Maggid. All right. So that means narration, and it's story time. We were slaves. Read together with us. We were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt. It started when Jacob went down to Egypt, compelled by the word of God. Here, we usually tell the story of our ancestors. Jacob's son Joseph rose in the hierarchy, helped a good Pharaoh, had some dreams, had a multicolored coat, was united with his brothers. Then there's Moses, who was picked up in a basket, grew up at Pharaoh's palace, left for a while, saw a burning bush, told Pharaoh, terrible plagues are coming, you should let my people go, which became a very singable spiritual. The Hebrews wandered around the desert for 40 years, but the upside was Torah and manna, not necessarily in order. Oh yes, and there's the promised land also. That's it in a nutshell. Except there's 2,000 more years of history, and we keep hearing from a bunch of rabbis in Bnei Brak and elsewhere. Tonight, instead, we're going to tell the story of a different set of ancestors. If you came from European stock, it's not your direct line, but your distant cousins. My dictum is, we're all related.
These are a reporter's WH questions. Who, what, where, when, and why.
What means the Jews of Kaifeng? In time, we'll meet a bunch of who's throughout the Seder.
Where did we come from? Well, all our Haggadah instructions and a lot of our non-Hebrew prayers are in Judeo-Persian. Does anyone read Persian?
There we go.
There. So that hints of the primary theory of our origins. We obviously came from Israel, but no one knows via what path. It depends a bit on the answer to
when. Some say the Song dynasty, some say it was the Tang dynasty, others say it was far back as the Han dynasty. For our Egyptian archaeological Seder to keep track of everything, we posted a timeline of the Egyptian pharaohs and Israelite kings. Tonight, we probably need a timeline for China. Here they are.
汉朝、唐朝、宋朝、元朝、明朝、清朝。
Jewish merchants were among the earliest people to traverse the Silk Road when it started ramping up during the Han Dynasty. The Silk Road was the place to get all sorts of luxuries. Jews were involved with a group of merchants called Rodanites. Their origin is unclear, but for centuries they managed a big-time trading operation selling goods. The Rodanites were the go-to merchants of choice because at that time Jews and Muslims got along famously, or at least better than the Christians and Muslims. They played a unique role in the linking of the markets of the East and West during unstable times in that part of the world.
One famous Rodanite who built up quite a fortune is called
贸易商主 the merchant named Cho.
So English speakers called him Cho. He built up a merchant empire that continues to today.
Oh my God.
No one knew that they went back that far. Okay, the Radhanites transported several revolutionary inventions that shaped history: paper, our number system, and banks. Historians believe the methods of Chinese papermaking may have been transmitted to Europe via the Radhanites and Jewish merchants. Some credit Joseph of Spain, possibly a Radhanite, with introducing Arabic numerals from India to Europe. And finally, Jewish communities used letters of credit to transport large quantities of money without the risk of theft. Radhanites used these on an unprecedented scale. These transformed into the banks of the Middle Ages and the early modern period. Now that there were precursors to banks, we could have had rental agencies.
Oh my God.
Told you, drink wine, they make the jokes much better.
Traders from all points between China and Rome were the worker bees of the whole system. Despite regular visits from Jewish travelers and traders, during the early days of the Silk Road, there were no Jewish settlements, no place in China where you were guaranteed to find a minyan or a hot kosher meal.
There's one theory that when the Assyrians invaded Israel's northern border, northern kingdom, and exiled the 10 tribes in 721 BC, one tribe escaped to Asia and came to China, or at least India. Or in 70 CE, when Titus destroyed the Second Temple, Jews scattered. Or the failed Bar Kokhba revolt in 136 provided an impetus for Jews to escape the heat and flee to Han China. All speculation. The community itself maintained that they had been there since the 1st century. The popular consensus has that Jews came to China at least since the Han, with no settlements until the Song dynasty. But these origin stories explains the why, either to escape persecution and wars with the Romans, or the chance for a better life via lucrative trading.
The earliest evidence of a Jewish presence is a business letter from 718, written in Persian using Hebrew characters. It mentions sheep trading and cloth, showing its commercial nature. The author said he'd written more than 20 letters indicating a thriving trade already existed. It includes an intriguing request for a harp for teaching a girl how to play.
The first reliable evidence of Jewish people in China dates from the Tang Dynasty, where emperors largely tolerated practically any religious practices. A business letter written on Chinese paper, identified as dating from 718 CE, was found in a post along the Silk Road. It was composed in a Judeo-Persian language. In his reports, Ibn Zayd al-Hassan of Siraf, a 9th century Arab adventurer, describes the massacre of Canton by Huang Chao in 878, where according to him many foreign merchants, including Jews, were killed.
Now let's get to the main part of our story, shouldn't we?
Kaifeng.
In its heyday, Kaifeng was the capital of China. It was the capital 7 times throughout Chinese history. Did you know that?
Yeah, now I do.
From 1013 till 1127, Kaifeng was the largest city in the world. It was the commercial and political center of Song China, right at the time when China was at the richest, most vibrant economy on the planet, as it had been for centuries. If I can make it there, I'll make it up anywhere. Yeah. It's up to you, Kaifeng, Kaifeng. I got carried away there.
Between 960 and 1126, during the Southern Song Dynasty, a contingent of Jews arrived in Kaifeng and established a community. There were Jewish merchants all over China, and they can be found wherever there were major markets. Guangzhou, Chengzhou, Ningbo, Zhongzhou, Hangzhou. There could have been settlements at these places. There could have been synagogues built too, but there's only one place where historical records show unimpeachable evidence of a Jewish settlement: native people following Jewish laws and traditions like their fellow Jews in Europe. Only Kaifeng.
The famous poet Xing Guang described the city of Kaifeng as having level land in all directions. Its communication with surrounding regions is aided by many rivers. The waterways teem with boats, one bow of one touching the stern of another, while men, carts, and animals jam the roads in an endless flow from every corner of the country.
The original Jewish settlers left en masse with their families and brought everything they owned from a previous, no longer known locale. The numbers of the Jewish community were not great, originally 500, but never growing to more than a few thousand. In a city whose population exceeded 1 million, you'd expect them to barely be noticed, but their influence and the respect they achieved was outsized.
In 1163, the Jewish residents of Kaifeng received the okay to build their synagogue. The Emperor Shao Tzu himself gave the approval and even gave the imperial order that they should follow the customs of their forefathers and settle in Kaifeng. For context, this is around the time that the compass was first used for navigation, and 1 year before Genghis Khan was born. The synagogue was erected at the intersection of Earth Market Character Street and Fire God Shrines Street. Location, location, location. The alleys on either side were renamed Teaching Torah Lane North and Teaching Torah Lane South. And they still have these names today. The Jews there found a tremendous amount of tolerance for all religions and races. Followers of Islam, Manichaeism, Zoroastrianism, Nestorianism, as well as Judaism could be found in the capital. The country has a history of pluralism and multiculturalism. They did not believe they had a monopoly on the truth, and therefore they were tolerant of all religions. Later, the locals grouped them with the Muslims because they looked similar, and they also avoided eating pork. The Jews were called the blue-headed Muslims because they wore blue kippot. Hey, what is it time for? It's time for our first musical interlude. Now, Randy's parody is inspired by tonight's theme. So, question for those of you in chat land. What famous Broadway musical and film is based on Chinese Americans? The first major film, first major Broadway theater play, Flower Drum Song. Very good.
Ding, ding, ding.
10 points for Erica. Very, very nice. Okay, so this is a song to I Enjoy Being a Girl from the Flower Drum Song.
Here we are gathered to commemorate our ancestors and their tribulations. With their lives they could barely tolerate. How tormented they were for generations. Our people were living in Mitzrayim as the slaves of the Pharaoh of the land. God sent Moses to carry out his grand scheme, but the Pharaoh would not follow his command. So God had a plan to break through Pharaoh's stubbornness with the Jews. He'd send down some horrid plagues to try to change the Pharaoh's views. You can't buy him with hush money, only scare tactics do the trick. And nothing remotely funny would it work to get him sick. Well, God had sophisticated power, and Moses the staff to wave around. The plagues would make all Egyptians cower, and just maybe would work on Pharaoh to back down. 10 plagues were then set in motion. First the Nile's waters changed to blood, and the frogs caused a great commotion. But the Pharaoh did not care, and he just glared and stood. The lice, then the flies attacked them, wild beasts died round them everywhere. Boils hurt and the hail did pound them, but the Pharaoh did not scare. Now locusts came down severely, thickly covering all the land. Darkness fell and no one saw clearly, but God had the upper hand. The 10th plague was really quite a doozy. The firstborn Egyptians all were killed. It made Pharaoh seriously woozy, so he said all the Jews could leave and be fulfilled. So that's why we're celebrating and retelling this tale of strife. We were free after years of waiting for a land all to ourselves, where we can build a new life.
I hope you all enjoyed that. That's the first one. We're going to have a reprise a little bit later. Our people from far away, with their strange rituals and traditions, became very active in the local community. Before long, our numbers and influence began to grow. For the next couple of 100 years, they served in the military and civil service. The community peaked and had their prime during the Ming Dynasty. Their population at that point may have been around 5,000. They were quite prosperous, engaging in every profession and business in the city, with a silk mill that had national reputation.
During Marco Polo's travel in China, Marco Polo, in the 13th century.
Wait, we're supposed to do something?
No. We're not going to play Marco Polo. Okay, during Marco Polo's travels in China in the 13th century, he mentions running into these Jews. In 1286, Marco Polo wrote that Kublai Khan was familiar with and celebrated their holidays.
Location, location, location. Unfortunately, the spot they settled had a slight water problem. Kaifeng was next to the Yellow River, part of the Grand Canal. This was an 1,100-mile canal, think LA to Dallas, dug by hand. The Yellow River's nickname was China's sorrow. Over the years, millions have died from its floods, even down to the modern era. 3 of the worst in terms of loss of life was in the 1930s and 1940s. Their synagogue structure, and likely their homes too, were mostly made of organic materials. Their synagogue didn't have a chance whenever there was a major inundation. It had to be rebuilt every time. In fact, the synagogue was rebuilt at least 9 times. They commemorated each major rebuilding by inscribing a stone slab. Each of these monuments is called a stele. Sounds a lot better than slabs. In time, there were 4 of them, but 1 was lost. We only have 3 today. They were always placed in the courtyard of the synagogue. For centuries, they stood telling the stories of their history and showing the prayers so that all future generations might keep the faith alive. Being totally isolated from the rest of the world, the Kaifeng Jews believed they were the last of their kind and were panicked that if they were to die out, Judaism would be lost.
A most devastating flood in 1642 was caused by a siege on the city. Many people died and most of the buildings were destroyed. One congregant, Gad Shuan, dove repeatedly into the flooded synagogue to rescue 10 Torahs and 26 other works. Many were severely damaged. The floods were so ruinous that the city was abandoned for years. 10 years passed when the Jews were urged to return and rebuild. All 7 clans helped restore and rewrite 13 scrolls.
So, when the synagogue was completed in 1653, officials of the town took part in a congratulatory procession, accompanied by trumpets and drums. Thank you. Okay. Those of you out in television land, you supply your own trumpets. The officials were of the highest ranks with the representatives of Kaifeng's many neighborhoods. This is another example of the respect the surrounding community had for the Jews. The officials carried hold on. Bien, yeah, that's what I said. Okay, they carried bien, and this is what they might have looked like. These are lacquered boards that were 5 feet by 2 feet, and they bared inscriptions with varying precepts: Temple of Perfect Purity, the Hall of Perfect Instruction, religion is derived from heaven, and so on.
Following the town officials were the Jewish community's clans. They carried Dayenu, presentation tablets with honorific couplets honoring the completion of the synagogue, the continuity of Judaism and Jewish identity.
Okay. Now, on either side of us, starting from the right, from the right to the left, are the exact same phrases that were used by the clans on the Duilien to honor the synagogue's rebuilding. These are due to our friend Paul Tong, who consulted with an expert of Chinese poetry and drew this calligraphy for us for tonight and made these banners. And so these would typically be on wood. These are not wood, as you probably already figured out. Now, what does the newest synagogue look like? There are no descriptions of the earlier ones, but each rebuilding was a lot grander than the previous ones. For much of the time, the community was growing and the Jews became more and more prosperous. We only have drawings that are made by Jesuit visitors from the 1700s. Okay, now we're going to learn about more of that meeting later. So this is one of the drawings, and the caption is, "The Jews of Kaifeng reading the Bible at the pulpit," or okay, reading the Bible are the drawings that were made from that time period. So this was made by Father Domingue in 1721, and this is a model of the synagogue that's in Tel Aviv.
The Torahs we have today, which are at the British Museum and at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, date from 1643 and 1663. But we know the Kaifeng had Torahs when the first synagogue was built in 1163. As the community grew and the synagogues became larger, they had more Torahs. At the time of the big flood in 1642, they had 13. We know they had at least 15 later on. This was a very large synagogue.
Floods and fire were repeatedly destroying the holy books. They got replacements from communities in Ningxia and Ningbo. Another scroll was bought from a Muslim at Ningqiangzhou in Shaanxi, who had acquired it from a dying Jew in Canton. From this, they made several copies. Of the 15 Torah scrolls they had, only 7 complete scrolls survive. All are from this later time period because floods and fires destroyed all the older ones.
The 2 Torahs, now at museums and university libraries, were used until around 1800. The text is largely identical to standard Torahs, except for a few scribal errors, but structurally they're different from Western scrolls. They are sheepskin instead of parchment, rather than using animal tendons. The strips are stitched together with silk. So,
then we have silks. Go ahead.
Instead of being wound on wooden rollers, the scrolls have the rods with knobs varnished with Chinese-style golden lacquer.
Okay, so now the answer to what the souffleur is. So the correct translation is prompter, thank you, Stephen Lee. But the name that I'm most familiar with is a gabbai. And gabbais have many different roles, but that's one of them. And so those of you who are familiar with the term gabbai, they had 2 gabbais in the Kaifeng Synagogue. What about the Haggadahs, I hear you ask?
What about the Haggadahs?
And you out at your homes? Let me hear you. What about the Haggadahs? Okay. There are only 2 left, both at Hebrew Union College in Cincinnati. One is from the mid-1600s, and the other is its copy made about 100 years later. They were written using a reed pen, a typical Chinese practice, on stout Chinese paper. There they are, okay. The text, the Hebrew lettering has something of a Chinese appearance. The text is quite similar to present-day Haggadahs. Both are bound in silk. Remember silk? There's Silk Road, the Silk Mill. The Torahs were held together by silk. We could have called this the Silk Seder. Here we have, let's do this. So now we have announcing. Those of you who are going to be participating, unmute or be ready to unmute. We're going to do the 2-minute Haggadah. Those of you who are wondering why does our Seders take an hour or 2 or 3? Why don't we go for 2 hours? Why not just go for 2 minutes? You're going to find out why, especially over Zoom. All right, so this is going to be my biggest challenge tonight. So each person is going to read a small segment, those of you who've been pre-selected, and then says tag and announces the next person's name. The next person has to quickly continue exactly where the previous person left off. Now, starting with the leader, they read a little bit and then they call out the next person's name. So it might be, if I was the leader, I'd say blah, 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 tag Randy. And then Randy would have to do it. But Randy's going to be the leader. You're going to mime all actions in parentheses and then read everything else, including what's in bold. Now, everybody else stays muted. Now, those of you, I will be attempting to spotlight people, even though they're on for only about 10 seconds. I don't know that I'm going to be able to do this, but I'm going to try. Are we having fun yet? All right, yes. All right. I hope we are. I hope we are. Start the timer and go.
Opening prayers. Thanks, God, for creating wine. Glub, glub, glub. Tag, Kara. Kara.
Sorry. What? Where? Oh, where? You do.
Thanks, God, for creating wine.
No, that was me.
Do the next one.
Thanks, God, for creating produce. Tag Steph.
Say the name better.
Overview. Once we were slaves in Egypt, now we are free. That's why we're doing this. Tag Alina.
All right, sorry.
Alina.
4 questions. What's up with the matzah? What's the deal with the horseradish? Tag Marilyn.
What's the dipping of the herbs? What's this whole slouching at the table business? Tag Marsha.
When we left Egypt, we were in a hurry. There was no time for baking decent bread. Life was bitter, like horseradish. Tag Erica. Erica.
It's called symbolism. Free people get to slouch. Tag Sasha.
Sasha? Well, let's hope.
I don't know where Sasha is.
Maybe maybe we lost Sasha. Oh, here we go, Sasha. I can spotlight you. Sasha. Ask to unmute. Okay, there we go.
Hello. Where were we? A funny story. Once these 5 rabbis talked all night, then it was morning. Ooh, heating the soup. Tag Anna.
The 4 kinds of children and how to deal with them. Wise child, explain Passover. Simple child, explain Passover slowly. Tag Julana.
Silent child, explain Passover loudly. Wicked child, browbeat in front of the relatives. Tag Phil.
Speaking of children, we hid some matzah. Whoever finds gets $5. Tag Cynthia.
Cynthia? This is taking longer than 2 minutes.
Oh, I think it's going to take longer than 2 minutes. I knew it was going to take longer than 2 minutes.
Cynthia, where are you?
All right, I have John.
Murray, you have to do the next slide.
It's up there.
It's up there.
The story of Passover.
The story of Passover.
Okay.
All right, I'll be Cynthia. It's story of Passover. It's a long time ago. We were slaves to Egypt. Pharaoh's a nightmare. And then the next person is Lori.
Tag Lori.
Tag Lori.
Lori can't unmute herself.
Oh, is she? All right, hold
I'm
on.
gonna talk on your.
Oh, no. I'm gonna. I didn't know you were on separate devices. Hold on.
I hope you're not in the same room.
This is the okay. Ask to unmute. You can unmute.
Okay.
Lori.
Go ahead.
Okay. Which line are we on?
Adam, you have to mute yourself for her to be able to be heard.
Okay. We cry out for help. God brings plagues upon the Egyptians. Tag Elisa.
We escape, bake some matzah. God parts the Red Sea. We make it through. The Egyptians aren't so lucky. Tag John.
John Green.
I don't know, these people in California, I don't know. I don't.
All right, we're all be John. I don't know. Cynthia and John seem to be all right. So
They're muted. You have to unmute them.
Oh.
I have a Jonathan. I don't see.
Look for good.
Oh, Jonathan's iPad. Okay, got it. Okay. You're now hoping. Okay, now you can unmute.
Yeah. Where are we, man?
We're wandering.
We wander 40 years in the desert, eat manna, get the Torah, wind up in Israel, get a new temple. I'm throwing it to Horst.
Okay, do we have Horst?
Marcia's Horst.
Marcia. Take it away, Marcia.
Horst. This is a terrible experiment.
Marcia, you can, I don't know where you are. All right, so eat several years without being persecuted again. Let the brisket cool. And who's after Marcia? Lena.
Tag Lena.
Thanks again, God, for everything. Really.
You skipped the page.
Yeah, you skipped the page.
Oh, yeah, you skipped a page because there were more people here.
Yeah, there were.
More things here.
All right, so we actually finished the Seder early. All right, how do we get to me now?
I have no idea.
Let me do this again.
This is insane.
I told you that I told you that this is hard because I have to have my mouse in several places. All right, one of the co-hosts, please spotlight me. For some reason, I can't spotlight myself. All right, so this was only 5 minutes and 37 seconds.
We didn't get through them all.
One of the co-hosts, please spotlight me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
Okay, very good. So this was 5 minutes and 37 seconds. When we were in person, we did this in 1 minute and 47 seconds. So Zoom is about 4 times less efficient than real life. So we now have a quantification of that. All right, where are we?
I don't know.
Okay.
Right here. Back to,
All right,
back
it's
to
you.
the memorial stones. Should be a little more simple. The 3 inscriptions that survive to the present day are dated 1489, 1512, and 1663. Most of what we know about the community's history and families comes from these inscriptions.
Hold on. This is the name of the stone.
重建清真寺记
What he said.
The oldest stone, 5 feet tall, is from, I thought the name was 5 feet tall, is from 1489 and is divided into 3 parts. The first tells the biblical stories of Abraham, Moses, right through to Ezra. It mentions the prayers, fasting, and repentance of Yom Kippur. This tablet says they came from India during the Han period. It lists the Chinese names of 70 clans and describes their audience with the Song Dynasty emperor who gave them the okay. The rebuilding of their synagogue after it was flooded occupies much of the remainder of the tablet. For $250,000, you can own an original rubbing of the stone created in the late 1800s. I love that shipping is only $18 more.
So for $250,000 plus shipping, you can have this delivered to your home.
The 1512 memorial.
尊崇道经寺记
Are you done? Okay. Describes the loyalty of Jews to the Chinese state, that they were civil officials and members of the literati. Most remarkably, its carvings contained all 19 blessings of the Amida, the Shemona Esrei, and Sim Shalom. If a Jew from the
major blessings for those of you who are not Jewish.
Right. If a Jew from the Middle Ages came upon the shul in Kaifeng, he'd know these guys were legit, assuming the visitor could read Chinese.
The 1663 stone
祠堂素骨碑记
is a larger record of the community's history. It lists similarities between Judaism and Chinese religious practices, including Confucianism, family, the traditions of education and scholarship, and the moral basis for life and charity to all. In 1605, there was a meeting of 2 cultures, from which we've learned a lot about the community. Every author who writes about this community includes this story. It's a funny story of mistaken identity. Matteo Ricci,
利玛窦
Li Mao Do is his Chinese name, is the most scholarly of several Jesuits that were sent to China. No slouch. There we go. Ricci mastered the script and language of classical Chinese and composed the first European-style world map in Chinese. At the same time, a knowledgeable Kaifeng Jew, Aliyah,
爱田
had passed the civil service exams, and he was in Beijing looking for an appointment to government civil service. The Kaifeng community had been so isolated since the 11th century, none of them had heard of Christianity. So when Aliyah learns that there's a monotheistic European in town, Aliyah thinks the priest Ricci must be Jewish. Before meeting Ricci in the mission house, Aliyah sees a painting of the Virgin and Child and thinks, of course, it's Rebecca with Jacob or Esau. On the other hand, Ricci had never heard of Jews in China and first thinks Aliyah belongs to the Nestorians, a lost sect who had brought Christianity to China. The Jew thought the priest was Jewish. The priest thought the Jew was Christian.
Soon Ricci realizes something different about Aliyah. What makes this historian different from all other? He sends some junior Jesuits back to Kaifeng to investigate. They find a thriving community, a synagogue, a mikveh, the whole works. Jesuits report back to Ricci. Ricci reports back to Rome, and their letters verify that Kaifeng were observing the Jewish Sabbath, Jewish festivals, circumcision, had Hebrew manuscripts, Hebrew prayers, several Torahs, and didn't eat pork. These letters from 1605 survive in many collections, including the Vatican archives. They're the strongest evidence we have of the strict Jewish observance in Hunan province, right in the middle of the center of the cradle of Chinese civilization. I mentioned every author relates the mistaken identity of Ricci and Etienne. It's especially important because it's the first time the Western world learns about a community of observant Chinese Jews.
4 sons, 4 daughters, 4 Steelies.
4个孩子，
The 4 children, all together. The sacred stone tablets that depict the history of our people enshrine the archetypes of 4 types of children. Together. Okay, so some of you don't read Chinese. Okay, the wise child.
聪明的孩子，
I have taken all the civil service exams because I want to receive the respect of my countrymen. The wicked child.
邪恶的孩子，
What are you talking about? You can't even tell the difference between a Jesuit priest and an Italian Jew. The Virgin Mary, mother and child reunion, eh?
沉默的孩子，
The simple child says, isn't Simon and Garfunkel just a little anachronistic? And the
不
child,
能问的孩子，
the child that does not yet know how to read Chinese says, well, doesn't say anything because he doesn't know how to read Chinese.
Got that.
All right.
What do we know about the Kaifeng, how the Kaifeng celebrated Passover?
What do we know about how the Kaifeng celebrated Passover? We're finding out tonight.
Like all Jewish holidays, Passover began the evening before. The Kaifeng Jews prepared for the holiday by killing a paschal lamb and using a new writing brush to spread the lamb's blood over their doorposts. This symbolized that the ancient Israelites smeared the blood of lambs on their doorposts to signal, this is a Jewish home, to the angel of death in Egypt. An elderly Jew interviewed in the 1980s recalled observances when he was young. Even though the community had almost completely assimilated by the time of his childhood, many practices were as they had been for hundreds of years. Shi Zhongyu said his father painted the top ledge of his front gate. Normally, we used lamb's blood. If we didn't have lambs, we'd use rooster's blood or mix cinnabar with water instead. Sometimes we used red paint. We believe the symbolic meaning was the same no matter what we used to create it.
Now, the Passover symbol for horseradish used by the Kaifeng was a mutton soup with an unpleasant taste. Everyone had to drink the soup, although it tasted awful. Doesn't that sound familiar? Not with the soup, I mean. It served as a reminder of the bitter lives our ancestors led in Egypt. Around the same time, their neighbors were celebrating the Chinese Spring Festival. The other Chinese households erected and worshipped the Buddhist icons, including door protectors, the Lord of Heaven, and the Earth King. Although the Jews saw great similarity to Confucianism, they never paid homage to these Buddhist spirits. It was another way that they kept their faith, their traditions alive. Now, in the traditional Haggadah, we relate with awe the power of God to free the Israelite slaves from the grip of Pharaoh's tyranny. In tonight's story, the Jews had no tyrannical leader. The government was benevolent, accepting, tolerant. But hardships in our story were suffered by the Jewish community. So let's list them, and with each plague or hardship, take a drop of wine and put it on your plate. So, oh wait.
十灾.
That's the 10 plagues. So, floods, fires, isolation, floods, lack of rabbis, assimilation, floods, poverty, bad fortunes and cookies, chopsticks at a Seder, definitely.
Don't lick your finger.
Don't lick your finger. That's what your napkin's for. Rabbi Judah holds the Guinness Book of World Record for world's first recorded acronym, and he formed the initials thus. Not very pronounceable because I'm the simple child that doesn't know how to read. Okay, so remove a drop of wine while we're going to do the traditional plagues. Randy's going to lead the Hebrew. I will lead the English. So
we'll do it at the same time, though.
Any way you want to. Switch off if you want to.
Ready? Okay.
And blood, frogs, slower. Vermin, wild animals, cattle disease, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, death of the firstborn.
I had to do it slower because Murray had a problem with the English, I guess.
No, I had to have my wine wasn't so high up.
Oh. Okay. All right. What names do you find in the community? An emperor during the Ming Dynasty bestowed 8 surnames upon the Jews, which they considered a great honor. Legend has it that the emperor said, "We want you to stay, but we can't pronounce your Hebrew names." They are also identifiable today by those family names.
爱、石、高、甘、金、李、张、赵。
The Zhangs later converted to Islam, but all other descendants of the Jewish community today have one of those names.
Let's move on with 2 rousing Dayenus. The Kaifeng Haggadah we have today contains no Dayenu, so we have to add one for the community. Dayenu.
If our ancient emperor had said, "Come on down to our capital, build a place of worship. You're gonna love it here," and did nothing else for us.
Dayenu.
Everyone say Dayenu.
If Kubla Khan had said, "I love latkes and matzah, count me in for a good time. I'll follow your holidays." Dayenu.
If ancient records confirmed we'd survive over 1,000 years.
Dayenu. If our story would be preserved for posterity, not in newspapers or books or parchment, which we know sort of gets crumbly over time, unless you store it in a huge building with temperature and humidity controls, which is a hassle and gets kind of expensive for all time, but is inscribed in stone. I mean, look at the pyramids, or why go to another religion? Look at the Western Wall. You see anyone worrying about humidity around those landmarks? Well, double Dayenu. Dayenu, Dayenu.
If we had never experienced discrimination, persecution, anti-Semitism, but welcoming emperors, leaders following our holidays,
Dayenu. If we had to be special, then why not go all out? Why not establish a community where no other Jew would dream of living? Dayenu.
If we did have the bad luck to build our community near the Yellow River, which flooded a lot, and a bunch of fires wiped out our synagogue, at least we had the prosperity and resources to rebuild the synagogue 9 times. I mean, who doesn't like a renovation every few centuries?
Right. Dayenu. If we must have a decline, and well, yeah, everything that goes up eventually must come down, I guess, then having many influential people of several religions and many organizations and rabbis all try to rescue us because, yeah, we were special, super special. Dayenu.
If someone centuries later decides to have a Seder following our customs and 100 people show up, can we finish up with Dayenus already?
Apparently not. For those of you hankering for the traditional Dayenus and the best melody north of the festive meal, here's a sampling. Had he brought us out of Egypt and not executed judgments against the Egyptians, it would have been enough. Dayenu.
Had he executed judgments against the Egyptians?
Dayenu. Had he split the Red Sea for us?
Dayenu. Had he fed us the manna and not given us the Sabbath?
Dayenu. Had he given us the Sabbath and not brought us to Mount Sinai? Dayenu.
Had he brought us to Mount Sinai and not given us the Torah? Dayenu.
Had he given us the Torah and not brought us into Israel? Dayenu.
Let's all sing.
Ilu hotzi anu mi Mitzrayim, anu mi Mitzrayim, Dayenu. Chorus. Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Ilu natan lanu et ha-Shabbat, natan lanu et ha-Shabbat, Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Ah, hidden harmony there.
Yeah.
All right, all together. Unless you're drinking water.
Okay, right.
How much more so then should we be grateful to God for the numerous favors that he bestowed upon us? He brought us out of Egypt and punished the Egyptians. He smote their gods and slew their firstborn. He gave us their wealth and split the sea for us. He led us through dry land and sunk our foes in it. He sustained us in the desert for 40 years and fed us with the manna. He gave us the Sabbath
and brought us
into Mount Sinai. He gave us the Torah and brought us into Israel. He built the temple for us to atone for all of our sins. One family of the Kaifeng stands above all the rest. The Shao family is the most famous. The first to be written up was Shao Cheng. Like I said, a physician who served in the early 1400s. He was a soldier in the Henan Central Guard. He discovered a treasonous plot by the emperor's nephew. Zhao reported the plot to the emperor. When it was confirmed, he was awarded an appointment as an officer of the National Security Force and later rewarded with imperial edict, ultimately rising to lieutenant governor. Real-time echoes of Mordecai versus Haman. Haman. Grogger. It was an honored Chinese tradition to reward good deeds by bestowing a favorable surname, which is how Zhao, original name An San, which denoted a very low birth, got his name, Zhao the Honest. The change was both an honor and a mark of social acceptance. Zhao supervised the rebuilding of the Kaifeng Synagogue in 1421, as you earlier heard, and its entire story is told on the 1489 stone monument that stood in front of the synagogue.
Later members of his family continued to receive great honor and achievement. 200 years later, his great-great-great-grandson, Zhao Chengji, was the first official appointed in the new Jing dynasty. As military commander of the Kaifeng district, he oversaw the town's restoration after it flooded.
With his brother, Zhao convinced the Jews to return to the city and finance the rebuilding of the synagogue in 1653. There are many more. A cousin, this is Yingqing, received a coveted rank in the highest imperial examinations, leading to many high appointments. Another cousin, Yingdao, was selected to study at the Imperial College, and as a courtly county magistrate, greatly advanced academic learning, which brought great prosperity to Yunnan province.
Over a dozen family members of later generations obtained prestigious scholarly or official posts, bringing glory to the family. Whenever the community listed its surnames, they always put Zhao first to honor the family.
And actually, someone already guessed the name of this.
I know, I saw that.
All right, wait.
Wait, no, don't play it yet.
Yes.
When I chose the song, I Enjoy Being a Girl, to write my Passover parody to, it was because I could just change the last word, I enjoy being a Jew. But somehow it just didn't work with telling the story of Passover. So I wrote another parody because it was too perfect to pass up. This has nothing to do with Passover, but it's funny. But we're putting it here anyway. I apologize in advance if you don't appreciate my warped sense of humor.
What are you doing here if you don't appreciate her sense of humor?
It was written in fun and not to offend any, in a mean way. So enjoy it or not.
I'm a Jew, and by me that's really great. I am proud that my shape is kind of curvy, but I walk with a schleppadick gait, and perhaps I can sometimes be quite nervy. Our family gatherings are shrilly, everyone talking all at the same time. Got a plan, can't just go in willy-nilly. Better practice all your gestures and your mime. The holidays that we honor, Purim, Pesach to name just two, with food that is just to die for. I enjoy being a Jew. On Pesach we eat some maror, extra strong for our friends true blue. We laugh as they choke in horror. I enjoy being a Jew. I love when I get some Shabbos flowers. I drool for those cookies, chocolate lace. I talk on the telephone for hours with 1.5 pounds of food shoved in my face. I'm strictly a female, and my future I hope will be in the home of a handy real male. All enjoy, might be a goy having a girl like me. We're born with high expectations, doctor, lawyer, or CPA. Professions traditions for generations, so our mothers won't be dismayed. Traditions are steeped within us, such as winters in Delray Beach, and a movie to see on Christmas, Chinese food after to eat. There's just 1 degree of separation between all the Jews who are alive. Go back far enough through generations, and you'll learn all the things we did just to survive. Transitioning to a free male, now my future I hope will be in the home of a loving female, whole and dry, might be a goy, having a boy like me.
Never knew that about you. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. All right, so back to the Seder.
Okay.
Rabbi Gamliel, remember Rabbi Gamliel, said, whoever does not mention these 3 things on Passover has not fulfilled his duty. Even during our most weird Seders, we do our duty. That's my Gilbert and Sullivan reference. Altogether, the sacrifices of Pesach, the unleavened bread, and the bitter herbs.
Pesach.
All right, all together. The Paschal lamb, which our ancestors ate during the existence of the temple. Why was it eaten? Because the omnipresent, blessed be he, passed over the houses of our ancestors in Egypt, as was said. You shall say, it is a sacrifice of the Passover unto the Lord, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when she smote Egyptians and spared our houses, and the people bowed and worshipped. 2,000 years later, Shi Zhongju's father will be spreading rooster blood on his gates. His neighbors thought it was a little strange, but they didn't mind. This unleavened bread, which we now eat, what does it mean? It is because the King of Kings, the Holy One, revealed himself to our ancestors and redeemed them before their dough had time to ferment. As it is written, they baked the dough which they had brought out of Egypt, and
unleavened cakes.
For they were driven out of Egypt and could not delay, nor had they prepared any provision for their journey. 2,000 years later, the Kaifeng will still be making unleavened cakes according to the same recipe. All right, so, yeah, that's fine. Okay, that's good. Okay, the bitter herb.
This bitter herb,
which we shall soon eat, what does it mean? It is eaten because the Egyptians embittered the lives of our ancestors in Egypt, as it is written. They embittered their lives with hard bondage in mortar and brick, and all manner of labor in the field. All their labor was imposed upon them with rigor. Our own Kaifeng community may not have used horseradish, since the tradition of a mutton is recorded
much more recently.
Communities around the world use different gustatorial representations for maror, pretty much as long as it's an unpleasant bitter taste. It's kosher. Ready? We are here. Bechol dor vador, chayav adam lirot, lirot et atzmo כאילו יצא ממצרים. בכל דור ודור חייב אדם לראות את עצמו כאילו יצא ממצרים. בכל דור ודור חייב אדם לראות את עצמו כאילו יצא ממצרים, כאילו יצא ממצרים. For those of you who've never been to our Seders, we usually are on opposite ends of the table, and we're singing across the people who are here.
Thanks, Steph.
Thank you. And everyone else who
She
enjoyed
waits all
it.
year to.
So there is a biblical phrase referring to the Passover ceremony that says, and in English, in every generation, each individual is supposed to regard themselves as though they personally had come out of Egypt. And that's what the song that we just sang was. Certainly the Kaifeng did this by pretending their homes were being visited by the angel of death, passed over when the angel saw the blood on their front gate. Was the angel fooled by the red paint? There's no record of the Kaifeng Jews losing their lives during Passover Eve, so perhaps.
We Kaifeng Jews have been able to stay together as a community through thick and thin for perhaps 1,000 years. Our devotion to God and to our traditions kept us together, even if it was due to our fear that if we were to die, Judaism itself would be lost. And so we give thanks.
All together. Therefore, it is our duty to thank and praise, pay tribute and glorify, exalt and honor, bless and acclaim the one who performed all these miracles for our fathers and for us. She took us out of slavery into freedom, out of grief into joy, out of mourning into a festival, out of darkness into a great light, out of slavery into redemption. We will recite a new song before him. Hallelujah! It was a new song when it was written. Hallelujah. Okay, so you have already poured the second cup of wine because that's what spurred the 4 questions. So here's the second cup of wine.
第二杯.
The二杯. So take your second cup. This has one of the fastest brachas. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Drink to the left. Mm-hmm.
卡带须洗手卡帕斯，把马扎饼从中分成2半。马基的拉赫扎。
Okay, Rachetza. That was the steps of the Seder all the way up to this point. So we've seen this bowl before. Yeah, thank you. Keep that. It's on each side, not to worry. Okay, now here we go. We saw they had this limestone basin in their courtyard. The Kaifeng community washed their feet before entering the synagogue. Maybe they used a stone bowl during their Seders, most certainly something smaller than this. No one knows, but we'd need a big basin for the large community we have tonight. So I'm glad we have this. So all together, blessed are you, say it for me.
Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with your commandments and commanded us concerning the washing of the hands.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, al netilat yadayim.
Okay, now.
Need more good sound effects. All right, now, those of you at home, get your matzah. This is one of the few biblical commandments that relates to Passover. So we take the 2 whole matzahs and the broken, we take it on the broken one. We need the broken one too.
Okay.
We're going to follow the instructions. Okay, hope you're doing the same. All right. So, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat matzah. And those of you who don't know Hebrew, you can sing the rest. Say the rest. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe,
who brings forth bread from the earth. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with your commandments and commanded us concerning the eating of the unleavened bread.
Eat your matzah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, enough. Yeah.
Tasty.
Then dry.
Okay. Now, there are different opinions about this. Some people only take the bitter herb. Some people dip the bitter herb in charotha. That is the second dipping. And thus the 4 questions. So the answers to the questions come over time. All right, so let me say I'll say we're doing. Here we're going to replicate what the later Kaifeng tradition of bitter soup.
Oh, God.
Can you get this ready?
Yes.
Okay. It's not made from mutton, because the recipe has been lost. That's not the only reason, but I'm sticking with it. So take your moror.
Oh God, this is gonna be awful.
This is going to be bitter. You can drink it from the glass, right? I'm going to drink it from the glass. Okay, so this is horseradish soup.
Horseradish soup, God help me.
I want to point out that to your side over here is our ketubah hanging on the wall. I'm not going to change the camera. On the ketubah, it says, if your husband makes horseradish soup, you have to grin and bear it. If you believe me, and you have an Aramaic expert in your living room, come on over and check me. Okay, let's do the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat moror. And for those of you who don't do it in Hebrew, do it in English. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who sanctified us with your commandments and commanded us concerning the eating of the bitter herbs, aka mutton soup. It's got a good nose. It's pretty tasty, actually. Randy doesn't like it. If out in your homes, if you have any funny stories about moror, I do, because I fooled my freshman roommate at my grandmother's Seder. We gave him a big piece of horseradish, and we laughed in horror. We laughed as he turned red. If you have any fun stories about moror and tricking people or whatever, put it in chat, and other people can enjoy it.
Well, that's why we laugh as we choke on the moror.
Cecil Roth, Chaim Simons, notes that for chorech, which is the sandwich we're about to do, the Kaifeng Haggadahs do not have the usual prelude for Hillel sandwich. They had something similar to what some Yemenite communities have. I wanted us to say that now, whatever the Kaifeng had, but none of my consultants could find the text. So we're just going to say Zecher Latit and move on. So this is Hillel sandwich. So we take the bottom matzah, protect the Afikomen.
It's not the Afikomen.
No, this is the other half.
Of the other half,
This is
yes.
the matching part. We have no name for the part that's not the Afikomen, do we?
Right, I wonder.
Okay, so make a sandwich of the moror, which we have over there, and the charoset. Or you can just
Here, take it from
take the matzah and bitter herbs. So you have many different traditions, 5 Jews, 6 traditions. Okay, that's it, good. So technically, what you do is just simply take moror with the matzah. That's Hillel sandwich. Other people leaven it a little bit, so to speak, by adding some charoset. So do what you like. And there's no prayer for this. We just say, thus did Hillel during the existence of the Holy Temple. He took matzah and bitter herbs and ate them together in order to perform the law. With unleavened bread and bitter herbs shall they eat it. Again, this was just written this week because nothing like this has happened before. So this is the cargo ship called the Ever Given. It is larger than the Empire State Building. First time in all of history of the Suez Canal. A cargo ship in Egypt's land. Let my freighter go. The Suez Passage easily planned. Let my freighter go. Ever given, stuck down in Egypt's land. Tell all tugboats, let my freighter go. The pilot lost his steering hand. Let my freighter go. And now verklempt, we're pounding sand. Let my freighter go. Ever given, stuck down in Egypt's land. Tell all tugboats, let my freighter go. All right, what do we have now? The food and the different traditions that there are of Judaism.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Ellie. What's your name? Rafi. Rafi, welcome to my Ashkenazi table.
Mama, I've brought an Ashkenazi guest. Yeah. And he's going to try your lovely Sephardi food.
No way.
This is a delicacy.
You put a gun and he said, I'd shoot you. I said, okay, shoot me, but I won't.
Well, how about we start with some salt beef?
It embraced the inner Ashki. Live it, embrace it. Just drink the water. Drink the water.
It's disgusting.
I'm not going to lie, I'm really nervous about eating this.
واحد اثنان ثلاثة.
Did you know an interesting fact about gefilte fish that they swim around in the sea with a carrot balanced on their heads?
Do you know there's another bracha you have to make on this one? No. Baruch atah Hashem shelo asani Ashkenazi.
The chilba, like Yemenite eat it. Coriander, chilies.
Yeah. It just looks like a swamp.
Garlic.
I think it just went on my nose.
Drive my belly.
Oh, if your Yemenite grandparents could see you now.
You can't. It's got It's like you're eating pickle. Got to give him a piece of cracker.
The cracker, I needed water.
This is fish nugget. This is fish nugget. Fish nugget, yeah.
Well, I don't know what jelly is that.
So I was right when I said that people die from fish nugget.
Fish nugget.
Fish nugget.
Try it. Come on, you're a man.
I just ate feet. Tastes like feet.
It tastes like feet. The feet. It made it into jelly. Oh, very Vaseline. You're eating Vaseline.
Okay, well, you think this is spicy? Right, this calls for... I better do this properly then.
Not bad.
Try.
The heck is this?
It's got skin on it. I don't eat fish skin.
You are a true Ashki if you could happily.
No, I'm not.
You'll eat the pickle.
It feels like it's trying to get out.
Give him water.
It takes a second to kick in.
I can't feel my tongue.
Why would you do that to a carrot?
Because it gives a kick to the food. It's not bland, it's not white not chicken, bland. And chicken comes down.
That's an Ashki food.
Now we're talking.
Yes.
Some decent Ashki food.
L'chaim. Tastes good, smells good. Spicy.
Ashkenazi is made really loch.
It tastes good.
Sephardi, Ashki, good food, better food, unity. Am Yisrael, the Jewish people. We work together, one nation, one people.
But without schmaltz herring.
Without schmaltz herring.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that. Here we have come to the festive meal. The festive meal. So what we're going to do, here we go, okay. Here's the first one, and enjoy the music. And I just start this over here. So I hope you all had a great dinner or a great dinner break. It was a pretty fast one for us. What would it be?
茶风.
茶风. Okay, so the phone, 茶风, something like that. Now, this is instructions to find dessert, also known as the Afikomen. Afikomen, if those of you who can read the Greek. All right, so as was true last year, the Afikomen is hidden somewhere on the internet. So go ahead, go find it. All right, so the first person to tell me, either in chat or by email, you all should have my email. I was the one that told you all those annoying notices saying we're having a Seder tonight. That tells me the exact web location, gets unalloyed honor and glory. So you will get eternally inscribed on the book of Seder champions. Here I have a list, long-awaited moment, who gets to be listed in the all-time honor roll going back. I only have 27 years of records on this sheet of paper. I know that I've got files that go back even further. So here are the instructions on how you are going to find the Afikomen. Yes, you will, or at least one of you will. If not, then we have to wait a whole year, and we have to go through this again. You don't want that, do you? All of your clues are going to start with tinyurl.com/SED for Seder, and then something else. But they're going to start with that and another word, and the first person to tell me the web location wins.
But you don't use the plus sign.
So your first clue is this. So go ahead and solve it. We are now going to go to, Adam is back. Okay, so let me spotlight him. There we go. Thank you so much, Adam. Nice to see you.
Hello, are we ready?
I think we are. Let me race after meals, and we just had that in Chinese. I'm going to go mute.
Shir Hamalot B'shuv Adonai Et Shivat Zion Hayinu Kechomim Az Yemale Tzchok Pinu Uleshonenu Rina Az Yomru Bagoyim Higdil Adonai Lasoti Mele Higdil Adonai Lasoti Manu Hayinu Semechim Shuv Adonai Et Shevitenu Kafikim Banegev Hazorim Bedima Berina Yitzoru Haloch Yelechu Vacho Noseh Meshech Hazara Bo Yavo Verina No say alumotav.
Adam, I'm going to ask if you can make it about 25% faster.
Okay, you got it. Rabotai nevarech, Yishem Rachmet Tzavi Adolam, Yehi Shem Rachmet Tzavi Adolam, Bershud Meram V'Ramban V'Rabotai, Nevarech Eloheinu Shachanu Mishelo, Baruch Eloheinu Shachanu Mishelo, Tuvo Chayinu, Baruch Eloheinu Shachanu Mishelo, Tuvo Chayinu, Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo, Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Hazan et HaOlam Kulo B'Tuvo, B'Chein B'Chesed U'Vrachamim, Hu Noten Lechem L'Chol Basar, Ki Le'olam Chasdo, U'V'Tuvo Hagadol, Tamid lo chasar lanu ve'al yachsar lanu ma'azon le'olam va'ed ba'vor shemo hagadol ki hu el zanum farnes lako ומטיב לכל, ומכין מזון לכל בריאותיו אשר ברא. Baruch atah Adonai hazan et hakol. Nodeh lecha, analhin al shinchat lavotenu, eretz chemda tova archava, berifet Torah chayim umazon, yitbarach shimcha, befiko chai tamid le'olam va'ed. Kakatu v'achalta v'savata uverachta et Adonai Elohecha al haaretz hatova asher natan lach. Baruch atah Adonai al haaretz ve'al hamazon. Rachem Adonai Eloheinu al Yisrael amecha v'al Yerushalayim irecha v'al Tzion mishkan kivodecha v'al malchut Beit David mishichecha v'al habayit hagadol v'kadosh shenikra shimcha alav. Eloheinu avinu re'enu zunenu farnesenu v'kalkalenu v'arvichenu v'arvach lanu and aleinu mera mikol tzarotenu. V'na'al tatzrichenu Adonai Eloheinu lo lidei matnat basar v'dam v'lo lidei avatam kim liyadcha amaleya abetucha akadosha v'harcha v'shalom nevosh v'lo nikalem le'olam va'ed. Eloheinu ve'levotenu, Ya'alev Yavo v'yegevi yerevi yetzevri shama v'yisbekev v'zichar v'zichronenu, v'viktonenu v'zichron avotenu, v'zichron Mashiach ben David abdecha, v'zichron Yerushalayim yirkadshecha, v'zichron komcha beit Yisrael lefanecha, liflei tau l'tova l'cheinu chesed l'chamim, l'chaim l'shayom, B'yom Chag HaMatzot hazeh zachrenu Eloheinu bo l'tova, ufatenu bo l'vracha, v'oshienu bo l'chaim, b'dvar Yeshua v'rachamim chus v'chanenu, v'rachem aleinu v'oshienu, ke'elecha einenu, ki hamelech hanun v'rachum atah. U'v'nei Yerushalayim et HaKodesh b'mera b'yameinu, Baruch atah Adonai, Boneh berachamav Yerushalayim, Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Hayel Avinu Malkeinu, Adirenu Borenu, Goalenu Yotzreinu, Kedoshenu Kedosh Yaakov. Ro'enu Rei Yisrael, HaMelech HaTov HaMitiv L'Kol, Shabachol Yom Bayom, Hu Heitiv, Hu Meitiv, Hu Yetiv Lanu, Ugmalanu, Gomlenu, Igmalenu Le'ad, Lechenu L'Chesed U'Rachamim, U'Revachat Salav V'Atzlacha Bracha, V'Yeshua Nechama Parnasav V'Chakalav, V'Rachamim V'Chaim V'Shalom, V'Kol Tuv, U'Mikol Tov, El Yichasreinu. Harachaman yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Harachaman yitbarach b'shamayim u'va'aretz. Harachaman hu yishtabach l'dor dorim, v'yitpa'ar banu la'ad u'lenetzach netzachim, v'yitadar banu la'ad u'la'omei olamim. Harachaman yifarnesenu b'chavod. Harachaman, yishbor leinu me'al savarenu, v'hu yolichenu komiyut le'artzenu. Harachaman, yishlach bracha merubah b'bayit hazeh, v'al shulchan zeh, shachalnu alav. Harachaman, hu yishlach lanu, et Eliyahu hanavi. Harachaman, hu yishlach lanu, et Eliyahu hanavi zachol latov. Vivaser lanu lanu, vivaser lanu lanu, vivaser lanu. V'sara tovot, Yeshuot v'nechamot. Harachaman, v'rech et kol mesubim kan. Otanu v'kol asher lanu, kamoshin barcha v'tein Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov, v'kol mikol kol. Ken yivarech otanu kulanu yachad, bivracha shelema v'nomar amen. Ba'amarom yilamdu, aleihem ve'aleinu, zechut shetehi lemishmeret shalom, v'nisav v'rachamet Adonai, u'tzedakah Elohei yishenu, v'nimsachen v'sechel tov, b'nei Elohim ve'adam. Harachaman yachlenu yom shekulo tov. Harachaman yivarechem medinat Yisrael, reshit tzmichat gulatenu. Harachaman yivarech etzacheh bnei Yisrael, hanitunim b'tzara, v'yotzihem me'afela le'ora. הרחמן, יזכן לימות המשיח, ולחיי העולם הבא. מגדול ישועות מלכו, ועושה חסד למשיחו, לדוד ולזרעו עד עולם. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יראו את אדוני קדושם, כי אין מחסור לרעיו, כפירים רשו ורעבו, ודורשי אדוני לא יסור כל טוב. הודו לאדוני כי טוב, כי לעולם חסדו פותח את ידיך, ומשביע לכל הרצון. היי, ברוך הגבר אשר יפתח באדוני, והיה אדוני מבטחו. נער הייתי גם זקנתי, ולא ראיתי צדיק נעזב, וזרעו מבקש לכם, וזרעו מבקש לכם. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום.
Die, da, die, da, die, da, die, da, die, da, die,
Terrific. Thank you, Adam.
Oh my gosh, Adam, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. We're not going to have the third cup of wine quite yet because we've got a little more Haggadah to do. The Jews celebrate a new year during Passover. As many of you know, Judaism has 4 New Years, another 4. Nisan was when another year was added to the reign of kings. We do that all the time, don't we? This time period was also the beginning of a lunar year that was celebrated by the Chinese. Some people see great similarities, even believing that one has inspired the other. Warning, what you're about to see is very speculative and probably wrong in some respects.
I want to give you something different to think about the origin of the Chinese New Year, and also knowing Jewish people celebrate a holiday called the Passover. Getting to the story about the Chinese New Year legend. The legend states, on the Chinese New Year Eve, there's a monster. The monster will come to different households and eat little children. But the Chinese people know the monsters hate red color. That's why during the Chinese New Year, Chinese people always wear something red. And then we have a red envelope. And then on the households, the door frame, we put these banners in red. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. And they shall take the blood and strike it on the 2 sides posts and on the upper door posts of the houses. Do you see the similarities? The sheep's blood strike it onto the 2 posts and the upper posts of the houses. That is exactly the same as Chinese New Year customs. We put red banners around the door frame, and then we write the blessings onto those red banners. That's exactly the same.
It's exactly the same, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly the same. Yeah, right. So it goes on from there. But this isn't the creation of just this one guy. Many people describe the similarities between Passover and the Chinese New Year and similarities between Jewish and Chinese values. Emphasis on education, honoring parents, the diligence of saving an inheritance for your descendants, and on and on. I show this only because I think it's interesting.
Back to Kaifeng. We need to come forward in time, first to the 1800s, then to more modern times. The decline of the community had many causes: intermarriage, assimilation, isolation, chaos in China. As the size of their community declined, they were also losing their leadership. Their last rabbi died in 1810. His son was quite unknowledgeable, with none of the scholarship of the father.
Truly, a lack of rabbis, if nothing else, will put a major damper on any Jewish
community. If there's no rabbi, then there's no one to congregate around. So without this essential leadership to serve the spiritual needs of the Kaifeng Jews, their slide into assimilation and the abandonment of their faith and traditions happened that much faster. The ability to read and speak the Hebrew language was, one of the first things to go.
Then in 1841, the Yellow River flooded again and wiped away the restored synagogue.
I hope I have the right number
I
of
don't know
re's.
how many there were. It was never rebuilt again. The former congregants were poor and had lost knowledge of Hebrew and most of the rituals.
In the mid-1800s, they displayed the Torah scrolls in the central marketplace with a sign beseeching anyone who knew how to read Hebrew to come seek them out. One source said the sign offered a reward in exchange for a translation. By 1850 or 1851, the synagogue was in ruins. Poverty was so widespread that surviving Jews sold the 6 Torah scrolls and several dozen liturgical books to the emissaries of the Anglican Missionary Society, the London Society for the Promotion of Christianity amongst the Jews. Later, 3 more Torahs and other manuscripts were sold. Most of the manuscripts we have today, the Torah, Sidurs, and 2 Haggadahs, were due to these Anglican missionaries, who preserved all manuscripts they could get their hands on. Much is currently in the Clow Library at Hebrew Union College, other libraries, museums, and private collections around the world. And for only $250,000, you can have one of those too. Quite a bit was returned to Kaifeng and is in the town's museum.
Around 1857, a small remnant of the community was seen still davening on Shabbat and celebrating holidays such as Sukkot and Passover. But it was just the elderly, and it wouldn't last long. A letter from 1866, morning and night with tears in our eyes and with offerings of incense, do we implore that our religion may again flourish. We sought elsewhere, but could find none who understood Hebrew, which causes us deep sorrow.
Around this time in the 1860s, they dismantled the synagogue and sold off its timber and stone to pay for food. The land was deeded to Anglican missionaries in the early 1900s. In all the time the Jews lived there, from 700s or 800s.
China never persecuted the Jews. From ancient times all the way up until World War II, when Harbin and Shanghai swung open their doors and gave refuge to Jews fleeing Russia and Europe. Chinese always had a good track record as far as, getting along with the Jewish people and making room for them somewhere.
We'll learn about the present day after yet more
葡萄酒,
葡萄酒, which is wine. Here's another item that was missing from the Kaifeng Haggadah, the 3rd cup. We can't skip that. So pour yourself some more wine. And I hope you know this by now. Hold on.
第3杯,
the 3rd cup. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Lean to the left. Okay, over the next century, continuing to the present day, outsiders tried to revive the community. In the 1900s, a wealthy Iraqi businessman, Aliyah Sassoon, supported the Society for the Rescue of the Chinese Jews, which tried to relocate Kaifeng Jews to the capital, to Shanghai. Lots of effort over the course of 3 decades, but there was very little to show for it.
The Sassoon family has been very influential in Shanghai, even funding 2 synagogues for Jews living there. The Anglican Bishop William Charles White, there he is, also tried to revive the community through the 1910s. The bishop coordinated a convention in 1919 to gather Western experts along with all the descendants with the aim of reestablishing the community. Both efforts had no lasting success. Throughout the 20th century, a smattering of Jewish travelers took an interest in Kaifeng and would visit the community and its museum as tourists.
Now, with the creation of the State of Israel, more recent attempts have tried to help those willing to make Aliyah, emigrating to Israel and becoming a citizen. Recently, one Israeli-based organization, Shavei Israel, Returners of Israel, ran a school there. There they are, and facilitated 2 groups making Aliyah from China in the 2000s. We'll see them soon. The Sino-Judaic Institute, this is their logo, which funds scholarship and research into the communities of lost Jews, is focused more on supporting the existing community and education programs and scholarships. This year, 2021, the SJI held an international Kabbalat Shabbat on Facebook coordinated with the Chinese New Year.
Can you tell us in Chinese how you say I'm happy to be in Israel?
我很开心来到以色列。
A special group, 5 girls from China who are Jewish descendants. They came here to Israel.
Feel 神奇咋说 magic yeah
Like magic.
Bezat Hashem.
Bezat Hashem, with God's help. Have a good luck.
What we're seeing here today is Jewish history in the making. The return of 5 young Chinese Jews on Aliyah to Israel. I know that you know Hatikva in Chinese because I've heard you sing it. I can't sing it with you, but if you wouldn't mind singing it now, it would mean a lot to us.
只要心灵深处尚存犹太人的希望，凝望希望的眼睛，注视着西安山上，我们还没有死去，2000年的希望。
So that was from 2009. There's also a video of them singing Ma'ot Sur, but I'm going to spare you that. This is from 2016.
Can you tell me about your feeling now?
Oh, I'm so excited now. Also even a little bit nervous.
Actually, it's like a part of our family, but actually we don't have relatives. But still, we were studying together in Kaifeng, and we came 4 years ago, and nowadays they are coming, so it's welcome back home.
The 7 young men were warmly welcomed by their friends. They all share the same origins. They are all the descendants of the Jewish community of Kaifeng in China.
The remnants of that community made great efforts to try and preserve their Jewish consciousness and Jewish identity. They passed that down from generation to generation. And in recent years, more and more young people among the descendants in Kaifeng are looking to reconnect with their Jewish roots.
The next historical moment was the arrival of the new immigrants at the Western Wall in Jerusalem. They came there directly from the airport after waiting many years for their dreams to come true and to give thanks to God and to pray.
Okay, so now that we showed Chinese people singing in Hebrew, as counterpoint, we have this from a couple of Brooklynites.
但是那个嘛，你打开了之后，冻3天它好臭，知道吗？你打开了之后，这整条街上就没人了。没听过？对呀，我都是。对。好。你见过讲中文的犹太人吗？你见过讲中文的犹太人吗？没有。第一次。是吗？对啊，我们2个都是啊。对。是吗？对，还行吧，还行吧。菲利普，你要这个吗？这个好吃吗？我还好吧，还好吧。我这个很甜，那我也要买一点。你觉得这个就是带着这个叶子好吃吗？还是？带着叶子好吃，这是新鲜的。哦，新鲜。你要吃吗？我可以吃一点点。OK。有好介绍吗？对。我们家那个孩子颜值都太高了，对。我还想说，还有另外一个问题，就是我们犹太人有的是不会跟，就是和犹太人结婚的一个问题。那不对，我老公就是犹太人。啊，是吗？真的？那难道我说错了吗？哎呀，可能。不一样的。对。犹太人在世界上大家公认的很出名，但是也有傻子，也有好家女。好的早就被人招了，他也是圣人，是吗？
他学经济，学炒股，谁炒钱都炒钱，有钱下到没钱。
I love these videos. Our final video must be this. It's a more serious look at China and a nice summation of the Kaifeng from the co-director of the Endangered Language Alliance. And so, since we are crossing languages,
Erste Simonim von der jüdischen Beisein in China hat man gefunden auf den Sami Mairev, in Xinjiang und Dunhuang, auf den Seidenem Weg, in Briefen und Dokumenten geschrieben auf Judäo-Persisch. Dacht sich, als jüdische Seuchrim, Lepoches Männer, haben sich besetzt euch in Hangzhou und öfter in andere chinesische Städte. Wir befinden sich jetzt in einem Sklad von einem Spital. Tut a Cook auf dem nebendicken Ort, als was ist heint geblieben von der Beis Medrash, aufgebaut laut die Dokumenten, um 1163. Der letzte Siemen nach der Petere ist geblieben das einzige Gessel, wo wir reden jetzt, was heißt bis heint die Geske von Lernen Teure auf Chinesisch. Die Besucher pflegen kaufen da gewisse Scherzen wie Sefer Teures, was befinden sich jetzt in der britischen Bibliothek, in Dallas, in Kanada und andere Orte. Sidurim, Chumashim und Pinkesim in Hebrew Union College und so weiter. Aber letztens, Alpines, ist geschehen etwas kompliziert und ungerecht. Ein nahe Interesse zur Jüdischkeit zwischen den übergebliebenen Mischbuches. Ein Tage, eine Auflebung. Dazu darf man nehmen in Betracht die Meiles für eine Minderheit in China. Jedes Jahr pravet man Pesach mit der Seder in einem ortigen muslimänischen Restaurant, weil das ist nennt zu Kashrus. Und doch genug mit der Geschichte. Lassen wir sich freuen, als wir haben Brüder und Schwestern in einem verworfenen Ort. Als jüdische Tfiles und Gesangen klingen noch einmal in einer weiter dicken Eck von China.
So I thought his Chinese was pretty good, didn't you? All right, now let's bring ourselves to the present times. Recent news has been much sadder. Due to widely publicized Seders led by Chevet and the Sino-Judaic Institute, a request for political asylum for religious persecution, a long-standing prohibition against proselytizing, among other factors, authorities responded harshly and vigorously in 2016. All Jewish tours to Kaifeng were suspended. Exhibits in a nearby park and 2 local museums were closed. The Kaifeng Jews were prohibited from meeting collectively. Police ordered individual families to remove the mezuzahs from their doorposts.
Even the well, revered by the Kaifeng Jews as the last remaining part of their long-destroyed synagogue site, mentioned in Shmuel's piece, was filled in and closed off. Individual Jewish families are still gathering to observe Jewish holy days as best they can. China experts say the crackdown is not directed only against the Jews, but is a national campaign against unapproved minority religions, of which Judaism is one.
The Kaifeng community has been through worse, but I wish the chapter being written now wasn't so bleak. This is an appropriate place to demand God's wrath as a proxy for our own anger and frustration at the current situation, just as Jews have done during times of anger and frustration in past centuries. So together with me. Pour out your wrath upon the nations and leaders that do not acknowledge you, and upon the official policies that belittle you. Pour out your indignation upon them, and let the wrath of your anger overtake them. Pursue them with anger and destroy them from beneath the heavens of the Lord. I'm more in favor of rapprochement to achieve harmonious relations, but that wasn't the intention of the psalmist. However, I'm heartened by the viewpoint that the implementation of vengeance is God's business, not ours.
Finally, we learn about last year. One of the Kaifeng men who made Aliyah in 2009 got married in 2020 during the pandemic. His family in China had previously secured all the necessary visas and arranged expensive flights to participate in his wedding. The pandemic, though, scuttled those plans.
Okay, let's look at a wider perspective. It's clear that Jews lived in other cities. We've mentioned that the port city of Ningbo provided a Torah, the first time Kaifeng lost its synagogue. In centuries past, Jews were also in Yangzhou, Guangzhou, and Hangzhou. In more recent times, they came to the cities of Harbin, Shanghai, and Beijing. But in those larger cities, these weren't historical settlements like Kaifeng. Harbin's population were Russian Jews who were escaping the pogroms of the late 1800s. Those in Shanghai were Eastern Europeans who came in the late 1800s and Russians in the 1900s, as well as Iraqis such as the Sassoon family. The family was known as the Rothschilds of China. And finally, Armenians, Americans. Finally, Americans and others came to Beijing in the 1970s. The person who put together this very beautiful Haggadah that Ricky and I have, and I hope many of you do too. It's upside down. Well, it's Chinese. Okay, so it has actually some very beautiful woodcuts. I don't have the pages. Yeah, here's one beautiful woodcut. Diagrams of woodcuts and stuff like that. The person who put that together was an Israeli expat who led tours of Jewish Shanghai.
But none of these communities has a story anywhere near as uniquely compelling as Kaifeng, an isolated community that thrived against nearly all odds.
Kaifeng was the capital of China in the northern Song Dynasty. Today it doesn't have an airport or a train station. It's the boondocks, unfortunately. It's not even the capital of the state.
It's amazing this town has such a storied history. The Kaifeng Jews today are a symbol of the larger story of Jewish survival, those who kept a flame alive around the world in spite of prejudice, discrimination, oppression, persecution, expulsion, and more.
It's almost as though there was an invisible hand helping us, guiding us. Certainly, the ancient rabbis thought so, to help us survive so that we could keep alive the hope and the dreams. Who best to bring those, if not Eliyahu? Now, in traditional Seders, well, first, let me play this first. Okay, that's it in Chinese. Now, in traditional Seders, the door is opened for Elijah, so I'm going to do that now. I'm not going to open the waiting room. We're going to open up the door.
Just open the other door.
So, Elijah, are you here?
Hey, everybody, I'm Elijah. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person for everyone at the Spiegel Seder to herald the coming of the Messiah. I know you had high hopes. Being on Zoom, you'd think I could appear everywhere at the same time, didn't you? But there are some technical issues up here in heaven. You've been waiting a few thousand years. What's one more? Maybe next year. Keep your hopes up, raise a glass for me, and for God's sake, get vaccinated. See you next year, maybe.
Yes. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Bimhera be'amenu, Yavo Elenu, Imoshiach ben David, Imoshiach ben David.
Now let's look at an even wider perspective. The person describing Kaifeng as the boondocks was Rabbi Marvin Tokayer, who for many years was the chief rabbi of Japan. How many rabbis were there in Japan?
Just one.
There's a missing page in Jewish history. Take any Jewish history book you want, skip the book and flip to the back to the index. Look up China, look up Tibet, look up India, look up Japan, look up Siberia, look up Manchuria. What do you find? Nothing. It's as if we've never been there. We're blinded by the West. Our ancestry is generally, it's from Poland, it's from Lithuania, it's from Germany, from Baghdad, wherever. We always look west, look west, look west. But what our children and grandchildren know very well is that there's no future in Czechoslovakia. The future is in China, India, Vietnam. The future is in their hands. We do not know that we have lived in that part of the world for more than 2,000 years without ever a day or a second of anti-Semitism, hostility, anger, or bitterness. From Eastern religions, we are the sugar in the tea. We don't attack the tea, we don't destroy the tea, we enhance the tea. Every place that we have lived in the Orient, we have bettered the society. And we live with respect, honor, and dignity. In 1992, China established diplomatic relations with Israel, wanted on both sides. How do you establish diplomatic relations? An ambassador comes, presents a letter of introduction, like a corporate seal, to establish cultural, diplomatic, economic ties between the two countries. Takes a minute and a half and you're gone. The Chinese ambassador in 1992 broke protocol, started to talk. I have orders from my country that I show my respect to Yaakov Rosenfeld, and I would appreciate your guiding me as to how I could properly show my respect to Yaakov Rosenfeld. The foreign minister said, we'll get back to you within a day or so. Thank you very much. It's the end of the meeting. The foreign minister sit around the table. Anyone here know who Yaakov Rosenfeld is? No one ever heard of him. Well, what are you going to tell the Chinese ambassador? Very diplomat says, I live in Tel Aviv. The butcher on my street, his name is Yaakov Rosenfeld. Why the ambassador wants to see him, I don't know. 50,000 Yaakov Rosenfelds in Israel. What are you going to do now? There's an organization in Israel called Igud Yotzei Sin, Society of Former Residents of China. They call it. He said, what about Yaakov Rosenfeld? He said, he's not on our list.
Eventually, they called this guy, Marvin Tokayer, who had been the chief rabbi in Japan for 8 years.
Let me tell you who Yaakov Rosenfeld is. The government of China issued a postage stamp for Yaakov Rosenfeld. In China, there's a statue of Yaakov Rosenfeld. There's a hospital named for Yaakov Rosenfeld. Yaakov Rosenfeld lived in Vienna, medical doctor. Hitler comes in, he's now in Dachau concentration camp. They beat the hell out of him. Gave him a heart attack. He's in his 20s. Discharged. You have 10 days to get out of the country. And if you don't get out, you go back to Dachau, you will not survive. America said no. England said no. Canada said no. Australia said no. New Zealand said no. He had no place to go. There's 10 days to get out of the country or he's dead. He goes to China. China was the only place where a Jew could go without a passport or without a visa. You didn't need any documents. No one asked anything. Just welcome to China. Jewish refugee doctor. And he looks at China. You have garbage, just throw it out the window. No one's collected it anyway. In 1937, they have a foreign fascist invasion. They have a civil war. Life expectancy 42. He marches with the Chinese army. And in every village, separates toilet water and drinking water. Wash your hands with soap. How to make basic medicines out of flowers, barks, leaves, grass, which you can do. How to make medical instruments. There were no medical instruments. And he put the health at the top of the agenda of every town, village, and city that they passed through. They loved him with a passion. He becomes chief of medicine. He becomes a general in the Chinese army. That's interesting. That's Yaakov Rosenfeld. On October 1, 1949, when Mao Zedong in Tiananmen Square announces the People's Republic of China, the end of the revolution, etc., sitting behind him in Tiananmen Square about the mockers, the important people of the new Chinese government, is Dr. General Yaakov Rosenfeld. The war is over, visits with his brother, has a heart attack and dies in an Israeli hospital. Buried in Kiryat Shaul Cemetery in northern Tel Aviv. To this day, every Chinese with the governments who visits Israel, diplomat, exchange student, trade mission, except the tourist, anyone who has any connection with the government, you go to the cemetery and pay your respect to one of the heroes of the People's Republic of China, Yaakov Rosenfeld. How come we never heard of him? How come he's off our radar? Because he's in the Eastern world. The Chinese know him. They issued a postage stamp for him. There's a statue for him. There's a hospital for him. There'll be a city for him. How come we never heard of him? Because we don't know the Jewish experience in the Eastern world.
Tokayer is an amazing person. He wrote an amazing book. If you'd like to do a little more research and learn more about the Asian experience, I urge you to buy his book, Rabbi Tokayer, Tokayer. Okay, so now we have
Aliyah.
Okay, so everyone together, pour the fourth cup. Hope you've done that, and recite Hillel. Not for our sake, O Lord, not for our sake, but for your name's sake give glory, because of your kindness and your truth. The Lord has remembered us, will bless us, he will bless us, the house of Israel. Hallelujah! How can I repay the Lord for all his kind acts toward me? I will raise the cup of salvations and call upon the name of the Lord. Hallelujah! Give thanks to the Lord, all you nations, praise him, all you peoples. Okay, so you do Kili Olam Chasto. So give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His kindness endures forever.
Kili Olam Chasto.
Give thanks to the God above gods.
Kili Olam Chasto.
Give thanks to the Lord of lords.
Kili Olam Chasto.
Does great wonders.
Kili Olam Chasto.
Heavens with understanding.
Kili Olam
To
Chasto.
stretch the earth over the waters.
Chasto.
To make great lights.
Chasto.
Rain by day.
Chasto.
Stars rain by night.
Chasto.
Smoke the Egyptians and their
Chasto.
firstborn. took Israel out from among them.
Chasto.
Strong hand, outstretched arm. With a part of the sea. Israel to pass through it.
Chasto.
Through Pharaoh and his host in the Red Sea. To him and the people through the wilderness.
Chasto.
You have fewer syllables than I do. Smoke kings. Mighty kings, king of the Amorites, king of Bashan, the land of inheritance, inheritance Israel's servants, remembered us as low state, released us from our foes.
I'll just wait.
All right, here it is, real nice and slow. Here it is. Who gives food to all creatures?
Jacques
Cousteau. All right, so now we have achieved. Herbe, as you might know at this point, is the cup of wine. All right, blessing over the cup of wine. The fourth cup is drunk while reclining. We're already drunk. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. No, don't drink it yet.
Okay.
We all have to say the following. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, for the vine and its fruit, and for the produce of the field, for the beautiful and spacious land which you gave to our fathers as a heritage to eat of its fruit and to enjoy its goodness. Have mercy, Lord our God, on Israel, your people, on Jerusalem, your city, on Zion, the abode of your glory, on your altar and your temple. Rebuild Jerusalem, the holy city, speedily in our days. Bring us there without the pandemic and cheer us with restoration. May we eat of its fruit and enjoy its goodness. May we bless you for it in holiness and purity, and grant us happiness on this feast of Matzot. For thou, O Lord, art good and beneficent to all. We thank you for the land and for the fruit of the vine.
And for the run-on sentences.
And for the run-on sentences. We thank you for all the semicolons on earth.
Okay.
Now drink, leaning to the left. What do we have?
That's this one.
All right.
Wait,
so,
finish. Up to here.
Yes.
You can't skip a word.
I didn't skip a word. I'm going to go previous. Okay. All right. So, okay. So we're going to come back. We're going to come back to that. Well, that's the 1,000-year-old story of the Jews of Kaifeng, surviving many natural disasters, sometimes very prosperous, sometimes desperately poor, keeping the faith alive through thick and thin, always tenacious, almost always feeling that they were the last outpost of Jewry, always having the respect of their fellow townspeople, and until recent times, unknown to most of the world. We conclude their story with the hope that the tiny spark held in those remaining will somehow have a brighter future. If Judaism in China does disappear because of assimilation, their descendants certainly have an amazing history to be proud of. Now we do Nirza. All together. No. I lost the song. Okay. This Seder now concludes with traditional words. According to Halacha, our Seder is complete in all laws and ordinances. And if you believe that, I've got a bridge to sell you. Just as we were privileged to celebrate it tonight, so may we be grateful to grant to perform it again. O Lord, who dwells in the heights above and in Zuma everywhere, establish us as a countless people, once again, speedily guide Israel as a redeemed people to the land of Zion with song. So you hear the Jerusalem? There we go. Okay, next year in Jerusalem, next year in China, next year anywhere in person. L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim, l'shana haba b'Yerushalayim, l'shana haba b'Yerushalayim, l'shana haba b'Yerushalayim habnaya. And now, this is the first day of the Omer. We've counted it.
Hayom, Yom, Echad LaOmer.
Hey, John.
Hey, John and Sid.
All right. All right. Yes. Okay. Just a second. Let me.
You have to. Yeah.
Yeah. Coming up. Okay. Now you can do it.
Here we go.
Are we unmuted?
Yes.
All right.
So where are you guys?
Sierra Madre, California. All right. We ready?
Yeah.
Kilo noe, kilo yoe. Adir b'mucha b'chuk halacha kejudav yom ruho. Lecha ulecha lecha ki lecha Adonai hamamcha. Kilo noe, kilo yoe. Dagu b'mucha hador halacha v'tikav yom ruho. Lecha ulecha, lecha ki lecha, 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 lecha Adonai Hamelech, ki lo naeh, ki lo yaeh. Zakai bimcha hasim kahalecha, taserav yomrulo. Lecha ulecha, lecha ki lecha, 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 lecha Adonai Hamelech. Kilo naeh, kilo yaeh, yahi bimcha kabir kalecha lemudav yomrulo. Lecha ulecha, lecha ki lecha, 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 lecha Adonai Hamelech. Kilo naeh, kilo yaeh, marom bimcha nora kalecha sevivav yomrulo. Lecha ulecha, lecha ki lecha, 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 lecha Adonai Hamelech. Kilo naeh, kilo yaeh, anav bimcha podek halecha tzadikav yomrulo. Lecha ulecha, lecha ki lecha, 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 lecha Adonai Hamelech. Kilo naeh, kilo yaeh, kadosh bimcha rahum kalecha shinanav yomrulo. Lecha ulecha, lecha ki lecha, 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 lecha Adonai Hamelech. Kilo naeh, kilo yaeh, takif bimcha tomech kalecha temimav yomrulo. Lecha ulecha, lecha ki lecha, 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 lecha Adonai Hamelech. Kilo naeh, kilo yaeh.
That was
Wow,
great.
that was wonderful.
Okay, you're hired for the next song.
All right. Adirhu, adirhu, yinebe tobekaro, bimheira, bimheira, biyamin lekaro, el bnei becha lekaro, pakurhu, gadohu, dagohu, adorhu, batiku, zakaihu, yinebe tobekaro. Bimheira, bimheira, bi'aminu bekaro, el bnei becha bekaro. Chasidu, tahorhu, yahidu, kabirhu, lamurhu, melechu, norahu, sagihu, isusu, yivnei beto bekaro. Bimheira, bimheira, bi'aminu bekaro, el bnei becha bekaro. Odechu, tzadiku, kadoshu, rachumhu, shadaihu, takihu, yinei beto bekaro. Bimheira, bimheira, bi'aminu bekaro, el bnei becha
Oh, it's so wonderful to hear harmonies.
God Sameach, everybody.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. It's just beautiful.
Great to have you at our Seder.
Yes, it's great to have you at our Seder again.
Great to be here. Get it.
Okay, hug. Okay, so what are we going to do, Debbie?
Echad miodea, and what I'm doing is prime numbered verses only.
Okay.
We'll see how this works. Echad miodea, echad ani odea, Echad Eloheinu, 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 Shebashamayim uvaretz, Shlosha miodea, Shlosha ani yodea, Shlosha avot shenei luchot abrit, Chol chabrit, luchot chabrit, Echad Eloheinu, 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 Shebashamayim uva'aretz, Chamisha miodea, Chamisha ani yodea, Chamisha chumshei Torah, Arba imachot, Shlosha avot, Shenei luchot abrit, Chad Eloheinu, 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 Shebashamayim uva'aretz, Shiva miodea, Shiva ani yodea, Shiva yemei Shabbata, Shisha shidrei Misha, Chamisha yemei Torah, Arba imachot, Shlosha avot, Shenei luchot abrit, Echad Eloheinu, 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 yes, of course. Sheba Shamayim uvaretz. I've had too much wine tonight. That's the problem. Achad asar miyadeya, achad asar aniyadeya, achad asar kochvaya, Sarah dibraya, Tisha yarcheleda, Shmona yemei mila, Shiva yemei shbata, Shisha sidrei misha, Chamisha chamshei Torah, Arba imachot, Shlosha avot, Shenei luchot abrit, Echad Eloheinu, Eloheinu, Sheba shamayim uva'aretz, Shlosha asar miodea, Shlosha asar ani yodea, Shlosha asar midaya, Shneim asar shvita, Achad asar kofa, Asara dibraya, Tisha yarbeleda, Shmona yemei mila, Shiva yemei shbata, Shisha sidrei mishnah, Chamisha chumshei Torah, Arba imachot, Shlosha avot, Shenei luchot abrit, Echad Eloheinu, Sheba shamayim uva'aretz.
Mazel tov. Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you, Debbie.
So our crack mathematicians in the audience are letting us know that 2 is prime and 1 is not.
But that's
Start with the first one anyway.
That's fine. That's
Yeah,
fine.
you have to. You absolutely have to. So we did all the odd numbers except for 9 because it's not prime. That's the reason. Okay. So what we have now for our last final song. Here we go. No. Okay. So one little goat.
Mama.
That my Abba bought.
Thanks, Dad.
With 2 gold coins. Chagadya, Chagadya. And then there came a cat.
Meow.
That ate the little goat.
Mama.
That my Abba bought.
Thanks, Dad.
With 2 gold coins. Chagadya, Chagadya. And then there came a dog. That bit the little cat.
Meow.
It ate the little goat.
Mama.
That my Abba bought.
Thanks, Dad.
With 2 gold coins. Chagadya, Chagadya. Then there came a stick.
Whack!
That hit the little dog. That hit the little cat.
Meow.
That ate the little goat.
No.
There's supposed to be 2 of them.
But 1 died.
Oh, my Abba bought.
Thanks, Dad.
Gold coins. Chagadya, Chagadya. And then there came a fire. Ouch! That burned the stick.
Whack!
That hit the little dog. Is that a real dog? That bit the little cat.
Meow.
That ate the little goat. That my Abba bought.
Thanks, Dad.
2 gold coins. Chagadya, Chagadya. And then there came some water. that put out the fire, ouch, that burned the stick, that hit the little dog, that bit the little cat,
Meow.
that ate the little goat,
Mama.
that my Abba bought,
Thanks, Dad.
2 gold coins, Chagad ya, and then there came an ox. So you do the move. Hey, you gotta move. That's okay. You're hired. Okay, one more time. Then there came an ox that drank up all the water. That put out the fire. Ouch. That burned the stick. That hit the little dog. That bit the little cat.
Meow.
That ate the little goat.
Mama.
That my Abba bought.
Thanks, Dad.
Oh, you're welcome. With 2 gold coins. Chagad ya. And then there came a shochet that slaughtered the ox. That drank up all the water. That put out the fire. That burned the stick. That hit the little dog. I hope there's no dog that's being tortured out there. That bit the little cat.
Meow.
That ate the little goat.
Mama.
That ate my Bob. That my Abba bought.
Thanks, Dad.
2 gold coins. Chagad ya. And then there came the angel of death. Boo. Everyone who's unmuted, you say boo. Boo. That slaughtered the shochet. Who slaughtered the ox. Well, I heard it. That drank up all the water. That put out the fire. Ouch. That burned the stick. Whack. That hit the little dog. That bit the little cat.
Meow.
That ate the little goat.
Mama.
That my Abba bought.
I love it, Dad.
2 gold coins.
Sing.
Chagad ya. All right, everyone together. And then there came our God.
Yay!
Who killed the angel of death.
Boo.
Who slaughtered the shochet.
Chop, chop.
Who slaughtered the ox.
Boo.
We have an ox
All right, sorry.
that drank up. We need more water. We need enough water to put out the fire. I had too much wine. Put out the fire. Ouch. Go. That burned the stick.
Whack. Oh, that was.
The little dog. That bit the little cat.
Meow.
That ate the little goat.
I'm so confused. Ma.
That my Abba bought.
Dad, you rock.
With 2 gold coins.
Okay, and we're done.
Oh, all right. I'm going to unmute everybody. Thank you so much. I'm really, really delighted that all of you joined. It was really a blast for us. I got to find the.
You made it. Let's see. You made it.
Beautifully done.
Thanks, guys. It's great.
A lot of fun.
Well done.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Tokayer was a special person.
Thank you.
And we found the super Broadway star.
Oh, serious.
Bye-bye.
With that voice.
That's for downstairs.
And your screamer.
We had a lot of
go
harmony.
downstairs, leave
A great
it.
deal of harmony.
I'll put it down there. It was fascinating and fun.
You made Pesach very, very special tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you didn't see my chat, this is the year of the ox in the Chinese calendar.
I saw it.
Yeah.
Moo!
Yeah. Hi, Country Ricky. Chag Sameach.
Yeah, because if I got yeah with the Chinese and the ox.
Yeah.
All right, Stephanie, we need some more water.
Yeah.
Wiping it off my face, Murray.
I'm so glad Stephanie turned her video on. It really made it.
From Ricky Whippets. How will you fit us all at your table next year? How will you fit us all at your table next year?
So I would love it. I would love it if all of you would turn on your cameras, even if you don't have anything to say. It's fine. I'd love to see your faces, though.
Stephanie, are you all wet from all the water?
At one point, Murray held me. I was holding it in my mouth for so long, I started to choke.
Yeah, I was holding mine too.
I thought you might, maybe you started to kayak.
Did anybody see if Louise was on tonight?
Yes, she was.
Okay, good.
Her video was off when I checked earlier.
But I did see your name on the list.
Yeah.
Thanks, Spiegels. That was fun
She
and
was there.
interesting.
Thank you so much. This was
Thank you
great.
for all of you for participating. I miss you all, even if you've never been to our house. But it was really just so much fun to have all of you here. And really, let's all, next year, let's all be together.
Yes.
Amen.
All 150 of the
Can't fit all of you, I'm sorry, I'll tell you in advance.
You need a new house.
It'll be a lottery, Randy.
Right, a lottery. Actually,
A lottery.
I think what I'll do is find out who cooks the best, and, so we have good food. So you'll have to send me samples, then I can pick who I want.
Oh, is that the challenge?
Isn't that a good idea?
Okay.
It was an honor.
Yes.
Honored to be at your table.
Well, we're honored to have you with us.
Thank you for having us.
Sleep for a week.
So,
Randy,
Yeah,
I just want to say your versions, your, what do you call it?
Parodies.
What?
parodies.
Yeah, that's the word that was right on the tip of my tongue. They were incredible. They were really they were brilliant.
You weren't offended by the second one, right?
Sorry, what?
You weren't offended by the second one, were you?
Why would I be offended?
Okay, just checking.
So I would love to know in chat, say yes or no, if you had heard of the Kaifeng Jews before. So just say yes or no.
What was the question? Didn't hear it.
All right. Let me just be the only one talking. Just put in chat yes or no if you had heard of the Kaifeng Jews prior to tonight.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. All right. Well, I hope someone has found the Afikomen. Some people have claimed that they have. They should have sent me an email if they did, and I'll let you all know who won in terms of finding it first.
And where it was.
There were several jigsaw puzzles to solve. I hope you had fun with them.
I didn't find it really one day.
So Murray will be posting this on a YouTube.
I have a YouTube channel
Yes,
for our
edit.
Seder. I'll be editing. Well, I got it
We're
done.
not putting the second parody in, just the first one, because it's not, relevant to the Seder.
Everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Adam, I'm glad your father's here. That's great.
I was setting up for school.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Be with you for this.
Thank you.
Love the Flower Drum Song. It's my first Broadway show.
Okay. 25.
5,
I'm sorry.
4, 3,